as in any democracy, different governments will make different choices. But in this paper, we set out some of the opportunities that the economic powers of independence will open for us. For example, with powers to reform the energy market, we could ensure that our renewable resources deliver security of supply and lower costs while also tackling the climate emergency. As the events of recent weeks have indeed underlined, whether we like it or not, fiscal credibility and market confidence are essential to the well-being and living standards of all of us. That understanding is central to the approaches we set out. Firstly, we describe in this paper the new financial institutions that will be required to help ensure such credibility and confidence. On that, though, it's worth noting that we are so much more advanced than in 2014. Back then, Scotland didn't have its own tax or social security agencies. We do now. Indeed, there have surely been few, if any, nations in history better prepared for independence than we are. We confirm that the policy of the Scottish Government is to establish a Scottish pound. We would seek to do this as soon as practicable. The precise timing would be determined not by a fixed timetable, but by a set of objective requirements and criteria, guided by advice from the Central Bank and subject to a decision by Parliament in the overall interests of the country. This paper sets out in detail a careful and responsible phased approach, as well as the arrangements necessary to support a new currency and, in the shorter term, our continued use of sterling. There can't be many, if any, who look at Westminster right now and think that this is as good as it gets. But in relation to an independent Scotland, people want to know, indeed, people have a right to know this. Can we do better? Do we know how to do it? And will it be worth it? I believe, with the right vision and a lot of hard work, the emphatic answer to all of these questions is yes. And this paper sets out the how and the why. If you take Europe, for example, there will be a paper, as I said, I think a moment ago, dedicated to issues around European membership. Yes, there will be a process of negotiation that is required there, but nobody with any credibility seriously suggests that Scotland would not be welcome back into the European Union. And while there would be a process of negotiation, most people who know what they're talking about on this issue are very clear that that would not be a particularly lengthy process. But these are issues that we will continue to update and inform people on. The last thing I would say, though, is we will also be candid with people that there is an inherent uncertainty in the future for everybody, for every individual, family, business and country. There are some questions that no country can answer definitively because it depends on circumstances and the decisions that are taken. And that comes back to an essential point here. This is not a choice, as it was often framed as in 2014, between certainty on the one hand and uncertainty on the other hand. The future is inherently uncertain. The question for Scotland is, how do we best navigate that uncertainty? And I think that's with governments that we vote for, rather than governments that we don't vote for, pursuing an economic policy based on the values of the majority in our country and harnessing the power of our abundant resources. Independence is not a guarantee of success, as I've said, for any country, but having the powers, the levers, the decision-making in your own hands, whether you're an individual or a nation, better equips you to face up to challenges than allowing other people to take decisions for you. Is this an easy path for any country right now? And deficits have grown across most countries because of the pandemic. Is this an easy path for any country? No, but it is one that we are able, doing it this way, to guide through a sensible approach consistent with our values. Right now, we are facing another period of a UK government trying to balance the books on the back of the poorest in society through austerity cuts that the Chancellor has just said this morning are coming down the track. So these are about choices. You're absolutely right about that, but we are making different choices. And independence is essential to allow us to implement very different choices.